think we are just having such a good time trying to figure out how to have such a
Here we
good
go.
time.
Did I get it?
Did not copy. And
There we go.
we live? Yes.
Yes.
Live on Facebook. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Happy, terrific Tuesday. It's such an amazing day. And, you know, we love our amazing day because it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yes. So while we're clowning around trying to make sure that we're all together, this is when we come in and we talk about our bedtime story, our personal development stories, and being able to talk about it and inviting guests. And that's what we're in, because every now and again we have someone who's interested in joining us on this Zoom link. So we want to see if we can do this. Let me make sure that I have Queen Gabby in this also. Anybody else wants to join in? So again, I would like to thank everybody for coming in, with Samantha and Kelly and myself, Lester, for those you all, because we're using Kelly's link at this present moment. I don't want you all to be wondering.
Samantha's link.
Samantha's link. Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
That's okay.
Don't confuse it.
So we would love everybody to come on in and have a good time, because that's what we're about to do. We're about to have a great time. So I am now making sure that I share my page, so when you all start seeing what you're sharing and why we send it to each other and other things that are out here. So again, we asked yesterday, as I'm almost completely finished here and I can see everybody, the question was, why is personal development important? And what are some of the things about personal development do you believe that are very important to you? And why do you think that should be an ongoing course? And I'm going to call it a course, because of our bedtime stories is all about reading. Every school that you've ever been to is all been about reading and been about math. So we're going to add up, the three of us are going to tell you, as I talk about math, right? The three of us are going to give you some ideas and pointers that we all believe in. And it's from one particular book that we all love talking about. That happens to be this particular book, Think and Grow Rich. And it's funny when we bring in ourselves all together and everybody's like, why in the world and what are you all doing? Excuse me, my volume just sparked back up again. So you almost heard a reverb. Why are you all talking about these things?
Yeah.
Well, today, what do we say? We're going to really speak about auto-suggestion and what else, Kelly?
I actually switched mine.
Okay.
I was moved to imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Imagination. Oh my goodness.
Love it.
So what do you like about imagination, and what do you like about imagination through the eyes of Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich?
One sentence. It is the workshop of the mind.
Ooh, the workshop of the mind. Now, is imagination the way that we think about sitting on a beach looking at clouds?
Well, it could be, but there's two forms of imagination. There's synthetic imagination and creative imagination. So it's really comes back to, the impulse of our desires, which gives our imagination shape and a framework and how we're going forward on that. So it's the imagination aids the action that we need to fulfill our desires, whatever our burning desire is. That supports that kind of in a major way.
So, Samantha, tell me, how would you use your imagination? Matter of fact, how did you use your imagination in doing the thing that you do for a living?
Oh. Okay. Well, my imagination wasn't actually what got me here, but I'm going to go back in time to something.
Let me cross my legs.
Yeah, yes, because this is interesting. And I don't know if many people know this, but I was a huge wrestling fan. And actually, I want to give a shout out before I tell you my story to my niece, Haley Miller, and Stella Miller, her mom, who I asked them to come and watch our Facebook Live because they need to hear these things and they need it for personal development. And to listen to this has helped me so much that I know it's going to help them as well. So they're actually watching right now, and I wanted to give them a shout out.
High five.
High five.
So imagination. I wasn't a little girl, but I was a teenager when I was obsessed with wrestling, obsessed. And I'm not talking about Roman Greco wrestling. I'm talking about WWE style wrestling.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan.
Well, that was WWF. But, yeah.
WWF, and then it changed.
Well,
to
yeah,
WWE.
that's true.
And I had this idea, and I used to have these thoughts in my mind, and imagine that one day I would be this famous wrestler, right? So what did I do? I joined a wrestling school called Squared Circle Training in Mississauga. I think it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrestling and wrestling and wrestling. And I said, I'm going to do this. And I lived and breathed everything wrestling and imagined myself. I got costumes, makeup. Like Stella will tell you this, she's watching, but she came to my school and she's like, there's no way you're wrestling. Like, this is not it. But in my mind, I felt I am the best. I'm the champion. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the best woman wrestler out there. And I thought about it so much that I made it happen at the school. And then something changed and I decided, you know what? I'd rather represent these people in court because I get into a lot of trouble. And that takes me to what I'm doing now. But I might not wrestle anymore, but I still make it part of my life, right? I sponsor a wrestling company called Destiny World Wrestling in Mississauga. But you know what? The power of imagination, the power of having dreams and really believing in those dreams, they can come true. You just really have to believe. And the more you believe and the more you don't let anybody stand in your way, it will happen for you. And that's what I've noticed with my career now. I mean, I've done it for almost 10 years. And I wouldn't have been where I am now if I would have walked away. And I've wanted to walk away many times. And I stuck with it and believed that I would be a great paralegal and a great representative to people out there. So imagination is very, very important in many aspects.
Okay. I love these stall moments. You know, we get together and we talk and we're all almost trying to think about. There's a story that I would love to share with you that actually is in the book of Think and Grow Rich about imagination. And it says in the book, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but I'm going to kind of talk about it in deep dive because a lot of us see in 2020 the story. There, you know, there's always been more gold, you know, minded from with the thoughts of man that has ever been found. So there was a young man and he was working with his mentor in a little bit of kind of a drugstore in the early 1920s. And working in that drugstore, he and his boss were talking and his boss was ready to retire. And he told him about a story about an old kettle. And it was one of those things that kind of says, all right, why are we going to use this old kettle? What's the importance of it? So he started again saying, well, let's look into the vast fortunes of gold and the idea that has been produced and paid for it, that still pays huge fortunes to men and women all over the world. And that was so important. What would this be? So the old man decided to bring the kid over and said, okay, let me see if you would like to be rich. I'm going to make you wealthy, but you're going to have to pay me a little bit of money for this secret recipe. And he's like, a secret recipe? Yes, he says, if you can give me $500, that's 500 simple dollars, I'll give you this recipe. And this recipe alone will make you one of the richest men in the whole wide world. So the guy finally, you know, raked up his life savings. His life savings happened to be $500. The old clerk looked at him and he says, okay, thank you very much. Here's a recipe. He took him outside to this very large kettle. You know, you're looking at this bigger than life large kettle. And you're like, why? What am I going to do with it? So he gave him a big wooden spoon. So you have to see, you imagine somebody saying $500 for this kettle and this big old spoon. And what am I going to do with it? But once he started stirring the recipe, this pot of gold became bigger and bigger and larger and larger. The old man retired And this guy used this recipe over and over again, and it is still used today. He was using his imagination of how he can be able to make money from it. By forming this product, he helped glass makers, he helped them shape bottles and what have you. He was able to do a lot of different things and making not just him rich, but the town rich. Everybody that lived in this town was rich. Now, what can you add into this thing with this recipe? For some of us, we remember a commercial of a long time ago. And this product that was made in the 1920s is still one of the best-selling products that are out here today. And I'll say that because who remembers the song that kind of says, I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I like to
something company.
buy the world a Coke and keep it company. The product became a Coke. Coca-Cola became that product that was made way back in the 1920s from a recipe that was sold for $500. How many of you all would have loved to use your imagination of what you can do with $500? How much do you think Coca-Cola has made since the 1920s? What would you estimate that to come out to? And that's such a marvelous story because that story seems like it's big and never can be duplicated again, correct? And would my panel agree? Silence is not what works here, ladies. It's
Well,
what
it could be repeated, just not Coca-Cola. It'd be something else.
So in 2020, what product do you, or what company do you know out here that was bought for little of nothing and yet is one of the top companies of the world because someone used their imagination? What would you think that company would be, Kelly or Samantha, as they ponder on this question?
Say that one more time.
The trivia question.
What would you think the product to be on the market today that we use, that somebody actually bought that product for almost nothing, and yet it is widely used today?
Viewers, does anybody know? Type it in the comments because
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. There could be a number.
Give me one of them.
I'm gonna say the fidget spinner toy, but I don't know. I'm taking a guess.
Chewing gum.
Fidget spinner good. It doesn't have to be, it could be a particular company, and believe it or not, you all have used this product within the last 30 days.
In the last 30 days.
Now,
Laundry detergent. I'll be
laundry detergent
using it right now.
You need
Is
to give us
one.
a hint here. More of a hint.
But the product is called a book, and the book has been raised by Amazon. Amazon is the top company which was only bought with a book, and is
That's
now a multi-billion-dollar company that's on its way to becoming a trillion-dollar company by 2021. And the head of it, his name is Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos used his imagination of selling books and then adding products to his Amazon website. Remember when everybody thought Amazon wasn't going to go anywhere? And just like the same with the Coke or any other idea. And I had to bring this to 2020 because how many of us can say that we have bought a product from Amazon within the last 30 days? And how many of us know that we will buy a product before December from Amazon?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
it just actually happened. So when you're looking at your imagination, you have to let your imagination grow. You have to let your imagination grow to really see what that's going to become. How will you use your imagination, and how important did you see that it was? And I love talking about imagination because some of us, that are in the high five club, it all begins with thoughts. We talked about it yesterday, thought the things, and what are you thinking? You would think, that it cannot be done until you're the person that's doing that. We have a young man on the link right now. His name is Jay. And Jay looked at an idea he had about—
High five, Jay.
High five.
High five, Jay.
He looked at a program, something simple, and he thought about how many people did he know that came to a different country, not being able to fit right in the particular culture and had to do certain things and actually started succeeding where a lot of people who knew the culture, knew the language, knew they had some place to sleep, eat, and lay down, something like that. And they took that and Jay wrote, he's writing a story about that, him and other people, because this is the reason that they're co-founder or co-finding, I don't know which correct term, I'm not going to say I failed English because they kept giving me
Co-foundering.
co-foundering. Thank you. I
No,
needed
I don't know.
help.
I'm just making it up.
It's
It
close
works.
enough for
We
me.
understood. It's all good. It works.
But what did that look? He looked and said, I'm going to put these people together and I'm going to help them in a book, talk about the stories of where they've landed and what are some of the things that they have done. My mentor, my coach, my great friend, and you're talking about, he's an author, he's a speaker, he's the person that teaches personal development, he teaches us communicative skill. He was born in Hong Kong.
Yep.
He was born in Hong Kong, and could you imagine somebody being born in Hong Kong? And at the time that he moved over to this country, he didn't even have a washroom inside of his house. He still had to go outside to use the washroom, AKA outhouse.
Yeah.
I never quite understood why they called the bathroom outside the house, but they used an outhouse. And he had to come over into Canada. And as he came into Canada, look at what has happened with him. Do you all know who I'm speaking of right now? And who is this young man?
Are you talking
Mr.
about
Gordon.
Mr. Gordon. So
Mr. Gordon So.
Mr. Gordon So has turned around and come from a different country, and he had to learn how to speak a language. Now he'll talk about it, because this is, he's talked about this enough times. And he says that he struggled in school. He had bullies that were against him. He didn't he went to college for a day, and then he walked on by it because he decided that this wasn't his career plan. So inside of coming into this country or into Canada, because when I say country, people start thinking I'm talking about the United States of America and not North America, period, being Canada. But he came into Canada. He didn't speak the language. He had problems with school, and he had to earn a living. How do you earn a living when you're not sure of what to do, who to speak with? What is the first thing that you want to know in any country that you go and visit? And simple answer is, I got to know, where is there a washroom? Could you imagine being able not to ask that question? You go to a different country,
Yeah,
you gotta go.
how do you do that? You have to sign that, and that's, I don't know.
No.
That's uncomfortable.
So with Gordon going to many seminars, different seminars, and he wanted to learn how to grow his life. This is what the imagination would go. He would go and listen to those top people like Zig Ziglar, like Les Brown,
Right.
like Anthony Robbins, and Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield. He listened to them, and his imagination grew to, he wanted to know how he could make money. He wasn't going to stay still. So he got involved with a network marketing company. He got involved with this network marketing company, and he did not have a dime. He got into this one company that was servicing him so well that he thought that that was his ticket to life. And the company all of a sudden went bankrupt.
Mm.
And when it went on bankrupt, he was like, okay, now I have to start all over again. But his imagination never stopped from where it was, because he's saying, I can do more. So he got into another network marketing company. And that network marketing company, and I can't give it a name, I'll just say ACN, gave him an opportunity to flourish in life, because he watched somebody on the stage and they walked away with a check of $33,000 for a month. And most people don't make $33,000 in a year. So he started looking at, how do I make money and how do I use that? He kept using personal development. He kept using his imagination, because at the time that he got into this particular company, it did not exist in Canada. Mm-hmm. So it kind of shows you how somebody is landing for success, who's taking personal development and using their imagination to keep going forward. So after he left that particular company, you would think that he was all happy, but he decided that he got into this other little small company, and they only had about 2 or 3 offices in Canada, and he started doing real estate. And now you look at the company that he was in, it's called Remax. Look at what his imagination and how Remax has taken him to another grand step in life. And I want you all to understand, and I've been taking over for my company here, and I'm going to let them come up with some stories because I know that they have some, especially after listening to me talk, and I'm giving them an intro to it's your turn next. But Gordon decided that his life was so important to keep using his imagination. And using his imagination, if we've been talking for a while, we decided that out of all the things that we can do in personal development, is start a high five club because we want people to be able to use their imagination and learn how the use of their imagination could work. Everything that you're sitting on right now, every way that you're communicating with us right now began in someone's thoughts.
Right.
It began with the use of their imagination. So Kelly or Samantha, whichever one wants to, go first, and you don't have to let, the dead air turn around and take you into that spot saying, what am I going to say? It's your turn. So ladies.
Hit it, Samantha.
Go ahead, Samantha.
What would you like me to do? Would you like to hear my poem? Or do we want
No, we like to hear your thoughts and stories that you may have on imagination. What would you say has been one of the most important items that surround you? Kind of talk
It
about
is because anything and everything that I do, it's about dreams. It's about anything you conjure up in your mind can be reality. And it's just a matter of taking that leap, right? Taking the leap to face maybe a fear and do it. And if you don't ever take that leap, you never get to see if what is in your mind can come to reality, but you always try. So imagination can be, it's huge. I hear people say sometimes, oh, well, the sky's the limit. The sky's not the limit. That you can go up into space. The sky's not the limit.
Yes.
You can achieve anything. And I mean, I know my niece is still watching, and I keep thinking of her as the prime example here, that as a young lady, she has tons of things in her mind that she wants to do. And that's why I want to say, thinking that you can't do them should not be ever an option, ever. And anybody who says sorry, you want to be like people used to say to me, you want to be a wrestler? You? Okay, yeah. So what? I do. That's what I wanted to do. And I wasn't going to let anybody stand in my way. And that's the power of imagination, is that you want it so badly that you live it, you breathe it, you eat it. Not you eat it, you don't eat it, but you
actually do eat it.
Can eat it, yeah, I guess, yes. Depending on what you're eating.
Have you ever watched the chef cook?
Yes, if you want to be a famous chef, you can do it. I mean, I always say, you see yourself there. Like if you envision it, it's in your mind, you're already there. You just have to make it into your physical reality so everybody can be there with you and enjoy it. Right? But it's a matter of getting over that hurdle, getting over the hump. And I think in my mind, something along the lines of, you're on one side of, I'm trying to think of like the television show Lost. I don't know why that's in my head, I guess, because I'm binge watching it. But being on the one side of a cliff, and then there's that big opening to try to cross over, and you have to get to the other side, and you have to find a way to get there. So most people would turn around and they're like, oh, I can't get there. Putting a rope bridge, putting a giant log, finding a way, finding a solution, because there's always a solution to bring the item of imagination from your imagination into reality. And it's just a point of never giving up. And if you can't do it, surrounding yourself with people that maybe can help.
Love you, mommy.
Right? Surrounding yourself with positive people that push you up, that keep cheering you on. Right? And I think there's so many things that this has taken me a very long time to learn. And I can see Miss Patricia Lynn Stokes here. And I have to tell you, she's one of the people that's been pretty instrumental for me. Kelly as well, Lester, these guys in the High Five Club, it hasn't been a long time. Like I've been watching and hiding, like, oh, I'm scared. I don't want to go on live. These guys are going to put me in the spotlight. But I'm telling you, facing it and making it a reality helps you to bring the items that are in your imagination. It makes you, it brings them to the spotlight. And one day I'm going to be a public speaker on a stage where I'm not shaking and scared. And this is why I'm here.
I see it.
right? It's happening. I'm going to slow down and I'm going to get there. And I think this is why it's important for me to be on here, but imagination is huge. It's huge,
Okay.
right? Sorry, I can't stop talking. Go ahead.
But
No,
it does,
I
it
want
proves,
Kelly to bring it home. Kelly,
Yeah, go Kelly.
give us
bring
a
it
story
home.
about imagination and all of that feeling that you're getting from that.
Well, she was saying the sky is not the limit.
Yeah.
And it is there's a will, there's a way. And it really is if I'm going back, it's the only limitation, it's within reason, lies in the development. I'm reading Napoleon Hill, right? Lies in the individual's development and use of their imagination. So it quite literally is, if thoughts are things, and I believe they are, I know that the two of you do, the scope of operation is literally the world itself. So having an understanding of how powerful a role our imagination plays alongside our beliefs and our desires, it all of that comes together because it all sits in our mind. So that is, we have got to get close, cozy, comfortable, get uncomfortable. I don't care, but get in the space of your head and figure out what is going on in there and how you have to put it right. We use planners. We use our calendars on our phone.
Mhm.
We put Post-it notes for reminders. We do everything outwardly or in the physical, right? It's, I know I need to get there. So why would we think, if we set up our environments to work for us, set up our environments for success,
Mhm.
why are we not setting up the environment of our mind for the same thing? It's not just going to happen, right? So if we're organizing our day and our week and our vacation, we should be organizing our thoughts. Let's organize where we are with our mindset.
I love that. For those of you all that don't understand imagination, and let me bring it to another story that most of you all know, but you don't think about it in the use of somebody using their imagination. There was this guy out, and I wish I had this poem in front of me because I know it. He talks about becoming one of the crazy ones.
Oh, I have
And, and becoming one of the crazy ones, he decided that he wanted to change how life would be. He said that not being being the square peg in the round holes.
Yeah.
What people, wouldn't vilify. I mean, they would vilify him. They would do a whole bunch of things to him, and they made him feel bad. Could you imagine when computers would literally take up the whole room of a building? And I'm talking a large office space, and they were all the way around. And then him and this guy by the name of Bill Gates, I know you all may not know who these two characters are, but Bill Gates and Steve Jobs worked together to give you your laptops. You never thought about a large room being developed all the way down to just a laptop. And they worked together, but they didn't like each other's idea about programs. So they changed it. One went with Microsoft, the other went with Apple. And they still both work well because we still use them daily. And this is the imagination. Steve Jobs wasn't finished with that part of his imagination. He wanted to make sure that he can shrink this computer down so that you can use it on your cell phone.
Mhm.
Could you imagine, in a day that people didn't think anybody would like to talk on a cell phone? They would not like the program. They wouldn't want to have a computer in their hand. And so his business, his own company, looked at him and says, we're not going to do it. And he went forward with everything that he had. He had arguments daily. And they looked at him, the board got together, and they fired him. How do you fire someone from your own company? Still today, I don't understand that. But he was fired from his own company. But he wasn't finished using his imagination because he wanted you to have a handheld computer. that you still use today. Your imagination is so important because you may be that world changer. Just because everybody else doesn't like that thought, doesn't agree with how you want, how you want it done. But when they see the finished product of whatever that you're going to come out with, somebody that's listening to us right here, right now, will be giving us that product that will reshape our lives. I gave you the story about the guy for Coca-Cola. I gave you a story about, Bill Gates and, of course, Steve Jobs. How many stories do you have? Even Jeff Bezos being that person to say Amazon was a good idea. Jeff Hoffman, and you're still talking about when you go to the airport and you see these kiosks and you're wondering like, wow, what was this thing? How did all of this change? And matter of fact, there was a guy that's in the Napoleon Hill book, and his name is Andrew Carnegie. Everybody talks about Napoleon Hill, but if it had not been for the thoughts that were in Andrew Carnegie's head about introducing the world to what this concept of Think and Grow Rich could be, the successful people of the world at this particular time never thought about how do I make everybody rich? And see, when you're rich in your mind, you can become that physical rich because your mind is not going to disturb you. You have that dream, that burning desire that we were talking about yesterday, and how that burning desire says, I'm going to think about this day and night and time again. And every time I try to kick this thought out of my mind, I come back to it. No matter how many people have disturbed me, how many people says, I'm not going to follow that dream. I'm going to be distracted by less worthy needs. I'm going to just, what the heck, I'm just going to shelter my ideas. I'm not going to nurture. I'm going to just not let them get into my heart. But somebody had to really look at that thought and said, follow your dreams wherever that they may lead. Don't be distracted by less worthy needs. That changed a life. Kelly is reading a book now and by Napoleon Hill called Outwit the Devil. And she spoke about it earlier. What was the thing that you were talking about earlier, right at the beginning of the book, Kelly, that Napoleon Hill said about?
I will grab it. I love it.
I love doing these things to Kelly because Kelly is always prepared. She is always prepared. And I make her someone say, Lester, do that to me again, and I'll see you outside.
I have been sharing it about every other day. You're going outside? What's happening? What did I miss? That's like the telephone game. And you don't you miss like half of it and you're like, what?
No, I said if I keep putting you on the spot like this, because I love the hot spot. And I still want, everyone to still ask me questions because there's certain questions that we want to talk about. But Kelly, please read the beginning of that book for us.
So it's Napoleon Hill's quote, and this is great. Actually, this is great. We're talking about mindset, where we're at headspace wise with thoughts are things. Mm-hmm. So here's his quote when you open the book. Fear is the tool of a man-made devil. Self-confident faith in oneself is both the man-made weapon which defeats this devil, along with the man-made tool which builds a triumphant life. And it is much more than that. It is a link to the irresistible forces of the universe which stand behind a man who does not believe in failure and defeat as being anything but temporary experiences. That's amazing. When we talk about what we're fear, right? Mm-hmm. Fear that is in our heads. What are we thinking? What are we telling ourselves? So interestingly enough, we are in the middle of his discussion with the devil. Mm-hmm. And at the end of chapter 4, the devil is saying, listen, I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to deny your story. You go ahead and publish it. And what's going to happen is my followers are going to do that for me. See if they don't. Interestingly enough, this text was written in 1938. How many people spoke up. You'll have to get the book, get the Audible to hear the story of how this came to be. It wasn't the annotation and edited. It was edited and annotated not until and published until 2011. That's over 70 years later.
Wow.
The Susan or Sharon Lecter put this together, but that's amazing. And in the history, in the story, you're going to hear why it wasn't published right away. So when you talk about fear, whether it's in your own mind or people around you, and certain decisions are made, thoughts are things.
Okay. Now I'm going to read you a story from my mentoring coach, and I loved when he wrote this story. For it's about an ant's philosophy, and an ant's philosophy is so important. It says, in my journey of growth, I have met and learned from many speakers, coaches, mentors, and my favorite, Mr. Jim Rohn. During my 30 years in real estate, direct sales, and network marketing industry, I have listened to audio series, my favorite being The 4 Seasons of Life. In my car, I turned into a mobile library. And not to date myself, but I have worn out and unstuck many audio tape, my tape recorders. For you all that have never seen the tape recorder, you're just a kid.
I still have tapes.
I remember doing that. He says, in my vision, I want you all to understand this, in your imagination, your vision, they're both the same. It's just that one, you use a little bit more action, and action is important. We're going to talk about that. So he says, in my vision and in my goal, it would impact our next generation of young people to greatness, the millennials, of whom I have tremendous respect for. And that came from Mr. Gordon. So he said, one of the biggest lessons from Jim Rohn is the ants philosophy. Can you imagine? What could you accomplish if you had an unstoppable and a never quit attitude? You have seen in the summer when it comes to obstacles, and either you go around it, go over it, go under it, but you never stop dead on your tracks. Here are the 4 Seasons by Jim Rohn, and study the ants' philosophy and develop their philosophy. An ant never quits. That philosophy, isn't it? I mean, that's a great philosophy, isn't it? An ant never quits. The next time you see a bunch of ants, put your foot in front of it and then watch them climb over it, climb under it, or climb around it. They look for another way to and never quit. So when they get stuck, they never give up. They find a way to get around where they need to be. An ant thinks all winter, all summer. They have a sixth sense to let them know that summer will not last forever. In the middle of the summer, they are gathering food for the winter. What an excellent lesson to learn in the ability to think and grow rich. Always remember, I want you all to get this concept out of thinking. If thought to things, what are you thinking? So never take things for granted in the store, the winter of life, and make sure that you can weather the financial times, or the good times or the bad times. Like the richest man in Babylon, pay yourself first. For every $10 you make, take $1 and put it aside and invest it. So how is your imagination learning to invest that one thing when you don't turn around and take out that time? If you take out a sheet of paper to give you some directions of something that you really want to have in life, if you just take out that one thought and nurture that one thought, you'll have a bank full of thoughts. You'll have a bank full of goals, desires. Your imagination will work because you're putting some type of action to it. An ant thinks summer all winter. That is a wonderful way to think. During the winter months, it reminds themselves that this won't last forever. So we're in the winter times of our lives. Most of us are in cold. We don't want to go outside. We don't want to put 1,000 things of clothes on. And it's like, oh my goodness, do I have to go outside for 1 minute? Imagine if you had 4 children that have planning all over the world, and they want to do things that one time or another. Or you may just have 1 or 2 children, but they move like they're 33 children. What does that look like when everybody says the winter of their life, they can't do much, but how do you prepare for the springs in your life when you're concentrating on where you are today on that winter? Don't get stuck. You know, a friend of mine once said these words, and I loved it. It says, when you're going through hell, don't stop. Because when you get stuck in your life, that's where your thinking is. That's where your stinking thinking is, and you're not moving forward. So we want to find a way to move forward. It'll turn cold, and when it turns cold, the ants, they drive down in their hole with all they collected all summer long. But guess what? They can't wait to get back out. And the ants' thoughts are all you can possibly do. With anything that you can imagine, any goal that you have, any place that you want to be in your life, all is never enough. You can always add something extra and you can keep going your life. How much is enough is when you call it quits, when you fall through that temporary defeat, when you're fantasizing everything appearing real. You're trying to get past your fears. You're trying to get past what? Procrastination. How many of you all been listening to us and been really deep diving into where you want to go in your life, and yet you're stuck? Who has a goal? Who has at least, matter of fact, put it in the feed for me. Anybody that has at least one goal. And then, once you answer that question for me, it's really important, because if one goal is enough, then you're not getting the concept of all you could possibly have.
Mm-hmm.
How much that you can gather. How will you prepare for even leaner months of winter in your life, leaner months of spring, leaner months of fall, because they're all going to come. It's just, where do you want to be? How many of you all at least have 5 goals? 10. Anthony Robbins says you should at least have 100 goals. If you have 100 goals, that should be your goal for the day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, you should be working on the one goal, but having the other goal. So when you rise up and get that one, you can replace it with another, and you would still have 100 goals. There were 3 men who went up to the moon. How many people thought going to the moon is the biggest goal that you can ever have? And yet those guys got there. So what was their life supposed to be when they got back? I will always tell you, shoot for the moon. And if you can shoot for the moon, even if you fail, you're only going to land amongst the stars. But you have to go after that very thing that you want. You're going to use your imagination to create the very person who you want to be. You can't walk into that mirror and say, I'm going to accomplish this particular goal, then write on the mirror until you can figure out what that goal is that you want. Don't let criticism stop you. Don't let old age stop you. Don't let illness stop you.
That's right.
Things that stop you are the things that you put in front of yourself. I like how Marcel says, in High Five Marcel, she says, my main goal has always have been to work for myself. Patricia Lynn Stokes is on here in High Five Partner. She always talks about the Dawn House and how saving people from sex trafficking. That is her biggest goal, because she wants so many people out. And she's lost family members in that industry because of what has happened. And I want you all to understand that it is so much to do. There are so many things to see, so many things that you want. And I know that, again, I'm taking over the conversation, and I have some incredible people sitting here with me who can jump in at any time.
I'll jump in because I have to jump off, actually, because I'm getting on a training.
No.
I know, but you were saying to go after thing bad enough. So obviously we all know what's coming. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, give up your time, your peace, and your sleep for it. If all that you dream and scheme is about it and life seems absolutely useless without it, if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it, plan to lose all your terror and all of your opposition for it, if you simply just go after that thing that you want, go after it with all of your capacity, all of your strength, all of your tenacity, all of your faith, your hope, your confidence, and stern pertinacity. If neither cold, poverty, famine, nor gout, sickness nor pain of body or brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim, if you beseech and beset it with the help of God, oh, you will get it.
I love it. I love it. So to all of you magical people that are here, all of you future geniuses that have been holding yourself back, doesn't matter what that thing is that you really want in your life. Imagine you having it. See yourself going on. You don't write this down on a vision board, because so many people love a vision board. You can manifest your dreams. everything that you ever want. All you have to do is now act upon it. That's all we're asking you, to act upon the very thing that you want. So we will have again another bedtime story on Wednesday, because I don't like using the word tomorrow unless somebody can find it on the calendar that it says tomorrow.
The day after today,
The day after today and the day before Thursday.
we'll see you in the wonderful space that is where you'll be when you wake up tomorrow.
Okay.
What? When you wake up in the morning. Okay.
So high
I'm
five to
signing off.
everybody. We'll be in here with you. And again, if anybody would like to join us, just let us know. We don't mind, because it's so important for us to find out where we really want to go and how to get there.
Yeah, because we love to hear your thoughts.
Look for you all soon. Bye-bye. And it's on you, Miss
Bye-bye.
Samantha. At the top of the page, it says live Facebook. You all, we're doing